about the thinking a person with what is the possibility will happen with some situation with someone or anything is maybe deduction possibilities, predictions, I think. Not sure.
Very well. You said exactly the words that I wanted. So possibilities, predictions, and this can be about the present and the future. Give me just 1 second. It seems like someone's writing. Hello. Ah, okay, I got it right now. All right, so let's continue. So yeah, that was very well. And I'm wondering also, how do you use or how do you construct sentences to make deductions? Can you give me an example of a deduction?
Um, Let me think. Um, is using the present, right?
Yeah.
Mm, an example is I think um, or the girl is thinking that will the girl is thinking that mm, probably
The girl
mm,
is
the girl
thinking
is thinking
that
okay,
probably
that probably will raining
will what? I'm sorry.
will um raining is
Is that the girl is thinking that it let's write it. It will probably
it
rain.
will probably
Rain. Okay, that's a very good example. So it's like making a guess. That was actually a really good example. So we can make deductions like this, but we can also use deductions or say deductions, write deductions with the use of some modal verbs. Now, do you remember what are some of those modal verbs?
would
Mm-hmm.
could make
That's
might
right. So in this case, we are going to use must, can't, and may, might, and could. So these are the modal verbs that we use to make predictions about the present or the future. Now let's move to the explanation for that. Um, so I want you to uh, pay special attention to these paragraphs since all the information is going to be here about that explanation. So let's start with grammar explanation. I'm going to mark it with number 1. So we can use modal verbs for deduction, guessing if something is true using the available information. Notice how it's a guessing. This is a very important word. If something is true using the available information. The modal verb we choose shows how certain we are about a possibility. This page focuses on making deductions about the present or future. So as we have those modal verbs, let's see how can we use must. So must. We use must when we feel sure that something is true or it's something is realistic or is only a realistic possibility. So here what we're getting is that we use must only when we feel sure. We feel sure. Alright, remember that. Now let's look at some of those examples. This must be her house. I can see her car in the garage. Now let's look at the second one. He must live near here because he always walks to work. And finally this one. Come inside and get warm. You must be freezing out there. So you notice I have plenty of information that makes me realize that I am sure about something. For example, in this last one, come inside and get warm. Well, I'm pretty sure this person that I'm talking to is getting cold, so that's the only possibility. He's obviously cold, so I invite him in to get warm. That's how we use must. Now we also have might. Let me change the color. Okay, so let's call this number 2. Might, may, and could. These all mean the same in this context of deductions. So we can use either of those anytime. Now let's see how it behaves. So we use might, may, or could to say that we think something is possible, but we are not sure. You notice how it changes from must? In must, we feel sure, but in might, may, could, we're not sure. This is the key word here. Now let's look at some examples. She's not here yet. She might be stuck in traffic. The second one. He's not answering. He could be in class. And the third one. We regret to inform you that some services may be delayed due to the bad weather. So, in all of these examples, for example, in the first one, we use might because, well, it's a possibility, but we are not 100% sure. He's not answering. He could be in class. So he could be in class. He might as well be in a party. We don't know. Also, we regret to inform you that some services may be delayed due to the bad weather. So, may be delayed because we're not entirely sure how the weather is gonna be. It's a possibility that the planes go out, or it's also a possibility that they get delayed. So, in those instances, we use might, may, and could. And this one is pretty simple, the last one. Let me change the color again. Let's use blue. So number 3, can't. So we use can't when we feel sure that something is not possible. So again, we feel sure, but in this instance, it's not possible. So it's 100% like that. We're completely sure. Now let's look at some of those examples. It can't be that far now. We've been driving for hours. Now, she can know about the complaint. She's promoted him to team leader. And finally, it can be easy for him looking after 3 kids on his own. So we use can here when we're sure that something is not possible. Now let's move to a summary. Let me check just right quick if Novia Novia's not here yet. Okay, now let's try to make a summary of that. So we use must. We can also make a line. Let's imagine this is one, let's call it 0%, and this is 100%. This is how sure we feel about something. So must, we use it when we're 100%. We use might, may, and could when we're 50% sure about something. Like it's 2 out in 1 chances. And this one, it's also 100%, but it goes on the opposite way, and it's can't. So we use can't when we're sure that something is not possible. Alright, so that was the explanation. It's a pretty simple one. It's just 3 topics. Now let's move to the exercises. Before we move to the exercises, I would like to ask you, Lauren, if everything's clear, or maybe do you have a question?
I understand you that must is used when I'm sure that something is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And
100%.
100%. And can't is when something is not possible that happen or is happening. And may and could is probably, is not sure.
That's right. It's exactly like that. So in this last one, also remember, I forgot to write it here, they're the same. So that means we can either choose may, could. Let me show you here on the page. And let's look at this example. She is not here yet. She might be stuck in traffic. I can also say she's not here yet. She could be stuck in traffic. It's the same meaning, you notice? Or I could say she's not here yet. She may be stuck in traffic. It's all the same. Now, since you got it everything very clearly, we're going to move to the exercises. Let's open it, and I want you to tell me. I'm gonna read it to you, and you're gonna tell me the option. But before we go ahead and call out the option, let's try to analyze the sentence. So let's look at this. Do you remember my birthday party last year? And then we have you. Remember, it was the same day as your graduation. So let's try to analyze this. Is it talking about a 100% sure possibility, or he's not so sure about it? What do you think, Lauren?
Is must, because it's true. Do you remember my birthday party last year? You must remember it was the same day as your graduation.
All right, very well. I'm gonna mark it, and we're gonna see the results in the end. Now let's look at this second one. Come in and sit down. You be tired after the journey. Before we get to the answer, do you think we're talking about a 100% possibility, or he's not so sure about that?
Everything is sure coming. Is must.
Okay.
Coming.
So must.
Tired.
Now, whose is this coat? It be Paul's. It's way too small for him. So we're talking about here a negative sentence. So that's gonna give us a clue. It's way too small for him. So I'm sure it's not Paul's. So which one do you think it is?
Say, what is this called? Baby Paul's is way too small for him. I think it can be Paul's.
Very well. So we use can't because we're sure, but we're sure that it's not his coat. That's how we use can't, when we're 100% sure that it's not his. Now, the exam results will be out soon. it be this week or possibly next week. Now, notice how we have two possibilities: this week or possibly next week. That's gonna give us a clue. Now, which one do you think is must, might, or can't?
The exam result will be like so. It. It I think it's May. Sorry, May.
The exam results will be out soon. It be this week or possibly next week's. Okay. So you said it's might. Let's see. I also think it's might. So let's continue. She always gets such good grades at school. She blank work very hard. Do you think she's talking about 100% possibility?
I think is maths. She always gets such good grades. Good. She must work very hard.
Yeah, because she's very sure about that, right? Alright, so let's continue with the other exercise. We have 3 left. The doctor said my headaches be because of the hot weather, but they're going to do some tests to be sure. So they're going to be doing some tests because we're not sure. So that's a very big clue that we have right there. When we're not sure, we use
I think is could be. The doctor say my headaches could be
exactly
because of the hot weather, but they are going to do some tests to be sure. To be sure means the doctor is not sure.
Exactly. That's a clue right there. So if we use could, notice how the phrase will end. Let me read it for you. So the doctor said my headaches could be because of the hot weather, but they're going to do some tests to be sure. It even sounds right? Alright, so let's continue. We have 2 idioms remaining. And okay, he blank be our teacher. He looks about 12. How would you analyze this sentence first of all?
I think he can be our teacher.
All right, but how would you analyze this sentence? Why do you think it can't?
Because he be our teacher is because maybe is for design and the expression.
Yeah, it's about the age, but let me show it right here. It's okay. So let me write it. We use can't. When we know something is not possible. So when we know for sure something is not possible. So in this case, we're talking about a teacher that looks 12 years old. So it's impossible. So that's how we use can't. Okay, you got that right.
The reason is because it's not possible.
Yeah, exactly. And we're sure that it's not possible. Last one. So take this umbrella just in case it looks as if it blank rain. So where do we have the clue right here? The clue is when we say it looks as if. That's gonna give us a clue. Now let's try to analyze that sentence and tell me which one do you think it is? Out of must, might, or can't?
I think it is might. Might. It looks as if it might rain.
Okay, and why do you think it's might?
Because it's is not sure. Maybe it's probably in case that.
Just in case. Exactly. Another clue. I didn't even see that. So we have two clues in this sentence. Take this umbrella because just in case. So we're not sure. And also it looks like, so another 50% possibility. We're not completely sure. Now let's review the questions that we answered to see if they're right. So, do you remember my birthday party last year? You must remember it was the same day as your graduation. So here we're talking about being 100% sure. Very well. It seems about right. Now, the second one. Come in and sit down. You must be tired after the journey. This one is kind of tricky, but I think you got it right. Because of, this person is talking about another person being after maybe a train journey or a flight. So he must be tired, but we also cannot be sure about that because how can we be sure someone is tired? But in this case, I will say also is must. And the third one, whose is this coat? It can't be Paul's. It's way too small for him. So you use can't because we're sure that something is not possible. And in this case, let's imagine Paul is a big man and the coat is very small. So it wouldn't make sense for him to be wearing such a small coat. So it seems about right again. This one. The exam results will be out soon. It might be this week or possibly next week. So here we're talking about two possibilities. This makes it 50-50, 50% and 50%. One is for this week and the other is for possibly next week. We also have the word possibly. That's a very good clue. So you use might very well. That's how we use. We can also use may or could. Remember, might, may, and could mean the same. Now let's look at this one. She always gets such good grades at school. She work very hard. She must work very hard. So yeah, it's a very good possibility. We're sure about this because she's getting very good grades at school. Now, the doctor said my headaches could be because of the hot weather, but they're going to do some tests to be sure. Very well again. You notice how they need to make more tests because that's not the only option that we have. Now, he can be our teacher. He looks about 12, so I can if we're thinking about someone who's 12, it might be a child, so it's impossible that he's a teacher. So we use can't because we're 100% sure that it's not possible. And take this umbrella just in case. It looks as if it might rain. So let's finish this test. And yeah, you get 100% out of this right. Very well. We can also have a small summary. So let me just go back to the marking section. All right. So grammar explanation. And I want you to answer me, Lauren. How do we use must? In what cases do we use must?
Must is used when someone or is sure that something is happening.
Okay, so let's write someone is sure. Very well. That's how we're gonna remember. And can you give me an example of that using must?
An example. This let me think. She must live. She must live in this house.
Yeah, we can leave it like that, and it works. She must live
in this house because the address is the same.
Because the address is the same. Very well. All right. Now, might, may, and could. So, give me a small phrase to remember this. How do we use this?
When something is not sure, or when someone is not sure.
Okay. That when we're not sure. Not sure. And can you give me an example of that?
Let me think. They are traveling in the morning, or they start their traveling.
But remember, you need to use might, may, or could. So they might be traveling in the morning, they may be traveling in the morning, or they could be traveling. Which one would you use?
They may be traveling in the morning.
Very well. In the morning.
In the morning.
And we can leave it like that. Because this is a complete sentence. We have the subject, the verb, and the object. So it's a sentence. It works. They may be traveling in the morning. We can just simply say that. All right?
Okay.
Very well. Now, let's look at this last one. And let me give you just a clue. Here we're 100% sure. Let's use blue. 100% sure. But how would you remember this? Tell me something to remember can't and the use of deductions.
Is when something is not possible. Sure, that is not possible.
Not possible. Very well. So when we're sure something is not possible. Now, please give me an example about that. Let's start with a subject, and then can't, and the object. So, how could we make this sentence?
The man can't working.
Can working?
The man cannot. Oh no. The man cannot.
Can be working. If we use the ing, we need to use the verb to be. So the man can be working because
I think say in this office
because he's sick.
Because he's sick.
That
the man can be working because he's sick.
Very well. All right, so that's everything for today. Let me show you again the presentation. This was deductions about the present or future. That was in parentheses because we're mostly talking about the present. And that's it for today, Lauren. I appreciate your attendance.
Thank you, teacher. Teacher.
Yeah.
Do you have some website in order to practice different exercise like this? Show you this example for practice exercise in order to check the answer if they are right or not.
Like about this topic or about any topics in general?
About in general, modal verbs or
yeah, I have
grammar.
I used englishpage.com. That's a very good page, and you can practice your grammar there. They have a ton of exercises, and they're interactive. englishpage.com. I just wrote it in the chat.
Yeah, because I think it's good make this kind of exercises.
Yeah, it's very good. It helps us understand better the topics that we learn.
Well, in English exam is about grammar as well.
Yeah, that's true. So it's a good idea to study those. You can find those in the page that I just sent you. Check it out, and it's a really good web page. You're gonna like it.
Okay, teacher.
All right, Lauren. Well, I hope you have a nice day, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Take care.
Thank you, teacher. Have a good day. Oh, I don't know.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.